Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I thought in War Thunder today we would talk about a vehicle that I've had an absolute blast with when it comes to playing the game. It's probably been my favorite vehicle of this year, and it's in two forms in the game, and I've only played one of them, so I'm looking forward to the other one. This is the SK-105A2. It is in the French tech tree at 8.3, but it also has a brother in the German tech tree, which is the JAPZK-A2, which is an exact identical copy of it, the only difference being the camouflage and obviously the matchmaking and the lineups that it gets. But I'm going to focus on the French one because that's the one I've been playing. This vehicle is one of those hidden gems. I hardly ever see them on the battlefield, and I find it really odd that that's the case because this thing is really good for 8.3. It has everything that you would want in a vehicle when it comes to this BR, and because it isn't seen that much when it comes to the general matchmaking, what ends up happening is when people fight it, they don't know how to fight it, so you can kind of screw them over in certain ways, which is pretty fun. So what this thing is, it's a pretty modern vehicle. It started out in good old Austria, and it's used by a few other countries as well. The SK-105 has access to a 105mm on it. This has access to all of the rounds you need, so it has access to a heat round, which you start off with, which obviously isn't great, but then you get a HE, a smoke, and also the APF SDS. The APF SDS is fantastic for 8.3. It works incredibly well. It works really nicely for the vehicle itself. Definitely worth using that one over the other ones. This machine also gets Gen 2 thermals, which is super nice on the vehicle itself. It doesn't get the best gun depression at -6, but it is quite low to the ground. So the gun depression is completely fine. The main issue with this is actually its gun elevation. Because of the turret, which is basically similar to the oscillating turret design that you find on a lot of French vehicles, the elevation on the gun is only 13. So if there's anything coming above you, you're kind of screwed from that. Point of view. It has a laser rangefinder, so you have automatic range finding once you unlock it, and it has scouting, so it pretty much has everything you would want, including artillery support as well. It also has smoke. There's no mechanic that this thing doesn't have right now in the game, which is super nice. And also at 8.3 you have an absolutely disgusting lineup when it comes to France right now. So this is just the 8.3 lineup in general. You got the SK-105, you got the AMX-30 DCA, the Brennus, and also the AMX-30B2. On top of that, you can also bring the AMX-13 Hot if you have a Death Wish, the Mars 15 if you have a smaller Death Wish, the AMX-10RC if you have it spaded, and the Acra if you are insane. So you have all of these options for the French 8.3 lineup, which are incredibly fun, and that to me is one of my favorite lineups in the game. And the only issue with it really is that aviation wise it doesn't have too much support. You have the F-84F and also the MD-452C, but that's not great, but it's good enough, specifically because your tanks are absolutely insane. And one of the things that this machine does lack is a stabilizer, and this is something that pretty much all the French tanks around this tier lack, and it's the reason why they keep going down in BR. The Brennus recently going down in BR as well, and not having a stabilizer is a large thing. There is definitely it means that you can't be as offensive as you would want to be when it comes to dealing with certain targets, but one thing must be understood. Just because you don't have a stabilizer doesn't mean you're not combat effective. In vehicles without stabilizers, I've done so much better than vehicles with, and that's because they are under BR'd, because they don't have a stabilizer. The AMX-30B2 is a fantastic vehicle. It has access to everything you would want from an MBT, but is lower than most of them. The SK-105 is exactly the same when it comes to a light tank. And you know what also the SK-105 has? Once you get the elevation mechanism on this thing, which, you know, means its gun lifting speed and vertical spread is better in general, the gun actually becomes incredibly stable on the platform that you find it. It has a really good rotation speed, and its vertical targeting speed is 8.5 degrees per second. So you don't have a stabilizer, but you have one which is close enough to one, especially since the gun is pretty stable without one. The other thing to also mention is this has an autoloader, and the autoloader is 12 pieces, and guess what you get for each of those 12 pieces? A 4-second reload. And this brings all of those nice features of the SK-105 together. It means that if you screw up a shot, you are going to out-reload your opponent. Having a better reload than pretty much anything at the BR is really important for a vehicle like this, because there are certain tactics you can do, there are certain shots that you can take which you can't take in other vehicles. It's something that the Lorraine 40T could do back in the day. When it comes to dealing with people who are in defensive positions, one of the things you can do is you can fake shot. Now, fake shotting is the idea that when somebody's hid behind something and they're waiting for you to shoot, you shoot, and then when they pop out, you shoot them again, because you've already reloaded a lot faster than they thought that you would. And this is something you can do with vehicles with very quick reload. And since people don't seem to know about the SK-105, or many people haven't faced it before because you don't see many of them, you can catch so many people out with this machine. It is incredibly fun to do so. And it means that you can unlock parts of the map which are normally not going to be unlocked by medium tanks or stuff with longer reload rates. And it also means that if you go on a flank with this machine and you see a bunch of people on the side, then what you can do is you can just pop them, you know, bang, 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 take them all out, and it works incredibly well. This machine is just fantastic. I don't know how else to put it. It's just one of those which is really fun to play, and one of those which I've had a fantastic time in. The only downside for this, well, I suppose there's two downsides and they kind of intertwine. It's an end-of-the-line vehicle, which means that its mod costs are through the roof. But I will say it was definitely one of the easier end-of-the-line vehicles to play, just because it has a much lower BR. But understand you are in it for the long haul at the moment. For me, I still have 3 or 4 mods left. I've kind of left it because I've researched everything in the French tree, so I'm waiting for them to add another French vehicle, and then what I can do is I can finish off the mods and get the bonuses for that vehicle. But right now, I'm 153 games, 51% win rate, 206 ground kills, 132 deaths, which for a light tank is fantastic at the tier. So, and I have 4 mods to go. The smoke, airstrike, crew replenishment, and improved optics. And because it's an end-of-the-line vehicle, it means that getting the required modifications for it is a little bit harder to do, such as the APF SDS is rank 3, the laser rangefinder is rank 2, and the thermals are rank 4, plus obviously the engine and the smoke grenade being rank 4. But at least there's a ton of rank 4 modules. There are 6 of them in total, so that reduces the cost of them individually, meaning they're a little bit easier to get. But overall, I would say the stock experience of this, because you have that reload and because the heat isn't that useless at 8.3, especially if you get up-tiered into that 9.0 bracket, which is very popular right now, it can still do really, really well once you get the laser rangefinder. The survivability is surprisingly nice on the machine as well. Even though it has just a 3-man crew, the commander can fire the gun, so if they shoot your gunner, you can still fire, and at the same time, as well, is because it's quite a compact vehicle, a lot of people are firing APF SDS around this BR, so what they end up doing is just shooting straight through your vehicle and into or out of the other side, and that means that you do tank a lot of shots that I feel like you shouldn't be able to tank in this thing, but it does happen. Your main issues are of course CAS, which is a little bit annoying. It does have a decent reverse gear as well, nearly 10 kilometers an hour, so you can get out of dodge as quickly as you get into it, and at the same time it does go forward at a good click. This thing is just really fun. It has everything you would want from a light tank, and also a little bit more, where the downsides of it are incredibly small, and I'm really surprised this thing hasn't gone up in BR. But I think the reason it doesn't is because of, well, the French problem. The fact that it doesn't have a stabilizer. It's still really fun to play, I highly recommend it, and it's part of a French tech tree, which overall I really recommend, which is just a fun tech tree from rank 2 onwards, with rank 1 being a little bit rough, and the rank 7 being a little bit sparse, but everything else in it is fantastic. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Professor X 1718, Orange Tail, Sakoshi Tiger, BRFC 15, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe A, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, and then Kyle Kin, Barine, Lafouche, and also Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.